Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on Laid Back the Atorozenga podcast. Our topic for this week is immigration and loneliness. Our guest for this week is a consultant GP and a lecturer in the UK with wealth of experience in family medicine. Hello, Dr. Obiora. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. It's my pleasure being here today.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you for honoring the invitation to be here today. Is this your first podcast?
Yes, very first. I'll say I'm used to having conversations of this nature, though in different settings.
Yeah, but I'm happy you chose this podcast to be your first podcast. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah. So let's start with immigration. Since Brexit, we've seen immigration. It's been on the rise since Brexit. Why do you think that's the case? Not just in the UK, but all over the world. There's been an increase in immigration all over the world.
Well, I don't have the exact numbers, but if we're seeing an increase, I guess it's due to multiple factors. Yeah. Humans move, for better opportunities, especially young folks who can afford it. And of course, moving, besides better opportunities, some move to avoid unhealthy environment. So if a country with poor economy, is not getting any better, then it will be very natural for the young folks there to start moving and set for greener pastures, basically.
Yeah. Okay. But in that same process, you mentioned that people who actually travel are who actually move most of the time are young ones. They move for greener pastures, for better opportunities all over the world. So we've seen a lot of young Nigerians actually Japan. Let's call it Japan.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the challenges faced by these immigrants?
I'll say a lot. Yeah, reason is my work keeps me, I'll say, in close contact with young folks who migrate to the UK. Yeah. Mostly resident doctors, and some I know socially, and from things I read from the news, and friends I meet in Bristol where I live. So I've personally interviewed many, especially the doctors amongst them, trying to understand why they moved, what their experiences are like, and how they navigate the challenges they face when they move from whichever country they are coming from to the UK.
Yeah. And what are some of these challenges they mention?
Well, the biggest one is money. It's getting getting much more expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
Flight costs, visa costs.
Fees,
it's not getting any cheaper. Of course, those who've got family, that means they have more number of mouths to feed. And it's not easy when you move from one environment, especially an environment with weaker currency, then move into a separate environment with stronger currency. Then that's a problem. Then the second thing many talk about is loneliness. That part, it affects, I'll say, everyone, but I think for this conversation we're focusing on immigrants, because loneliness is a big problem. And in my job as a GP in the UK, I'm glad the public is beginning to recognize more and more how loneliness affects folks. Initially, some people think, loneliness is just for older folks because, their kids are no longer with them, they're getting older, they can't really go out. But loneliness truly affects everyone. Yeah, there's no one left behind. It affects everyone.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that you mentioned that loneliness actually affects everyone, because I saw a research recently that said that 1 in 5 people in the UK often or always feel lonely. So, but thinking about it, I keep asking myself, why is loneliness such a big issue in the UK? Like, why is it so common?
Well, multiple reasons. So first is I think we have to clarify between what loneliness is and being alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are two separate things. I know some places where I've had this discussion, some people use them interchangeably, but they are not quite same. Yeah, because being alone, most times it could be
My choice.
voluntary. Yeah, because I mean, today I'm alone, literally,
Yeah.
in my study, but I'm alone deliberately because I choose to be in a quiet space in my study to be able to have this podcast. It doesn't mean I'm lonely. Yeah, I'm not at all. In fact, by the time we're done with the podcast, I have other social activities lined up. So that's being alone. And you could also say that's sort of social isolation. But of course, social isolation is different to being alone as well. Because social isolation, just picture yourself in a house, not much contact from your friends or associates. Then yeah, you're socially isolated. But then you can break that as well.
I made the calls, call them.
Yeah, make the phone calls, get in your car or public transport and head to wherever you meet your friends. Yeah, while loneliness is totally different. I mean, there are lots of opinions or definitions about loneliness, but I think the best one, or I'll say my best summary of loneliness is, when one, a human feels his or her need for social contact or relationship is not met. In other words, they are not feeling the connection. For example, you're in a party, you're surrounded by multiple folks, but you still feel lonely. Why? Because you feel out of place, or maybe the folks in the party or social event are even actively making you feel lonely by deliberately ignoring you or even being literally horrible to the person.
Yeah. Okay. I know you mentioned previously we thought, or everyone thought loneliness is it was attributed to the elderly, but now, like, do you think is we've seen young and old people complain about loneliness, so but linking it to gender, do you think is a male or female issue or affects both sexes appropriately? What do you think?
I don't really have any data on that, but from what I know anecdotally, it affects everyone equally. It depends on the dynamics of the person's social life and other factors. Yeah, so I wouldn't say loneliness is a male problem or a female problem. I think it actually affects both sexes equally. Yeah, but like I said earlier, I don't have the data. The data may say something different, but I think it affects everyone equally.
Okay. Now that we know that this is the issue, before we get to immigrants and how they're affected, how loneliness really affects them, how do you think we can actually cope or solve this loneliness issue in the UK before we get to how it affects immigrants?
Yeah, so for the UK, I know that's the question you asked. I think the UK, it's sort of I'll say cultural in the sense that the way folks communicate with each other here or socialize is different to places like Nigeria. So Nigeria, we easily hop on and say, "Hey dude, what's up?" And people just start chatting, start asking you personal questions, even invite you to an event. Meanwhile, they just met you like a few hours ago. And culturally, Nigeria, we still have that extended family network. So people still live, I'll say, together and amongst each other. So it's sort of easier for folks to break the ice and have conversations and, indirectly avoid loneliness. While in the UK, people, easily mind their business. So if you, for example, have a neighbor and you all of a sudden peep across his fence and say, "Oh, hello, I'm Obiora, and what's your name?" Blah blah blah. They may actually be taken aback and start thinking, "That's a nosy guy. Why is he checking on me? Why is he asking too many questions?" So it's a bit different here.
This guy is too forward,
too forward. So it's a bit different. So I think the dynamics affect how people strike up relationships and maintain relationships here. But when folks get going with each other here, lots of people do have lots of good quality relationships and then avoid the problem of loneliness.
But that thing you mentioned, for example, like working in Nigeria, once, because this used to be a culture for a lot of people, including my back home. Once you are done from the office, you go to a joint, go for your friends, have a bottle or two, and then go home. Everybody, you guys meet up somewhere after work, just at least chill, relax, talk, and laugh, and then you can all head back home afterwards. But you realize, I know you said a lot of people, when they start hanging out, they end up developing good quality relationships.
Yeah.
But a lot of people still find it hard to build platonic and romantic relationships, especially for immigrants. They struggle to connect deeply with others. Why do you think they really struggle? Is it from not being open? And how does this contribute to the loneliness?
Well, a number of factors contribute to that. So first is for immigrants, I'll say culture shock. Yeah. So you come in and you're like, how do I say hello to my neighbor or even my colleague at work? And you may try it the way you know, and like you mentioned earlier, the person may not, they may think, oh, he's too nosy, he's being too forward and stuff like that. So such things either give people, in quote, a bad experience, then they recoil and stay in their shell, and they're like, right, I don't know.
I don't know what I'll say.
Yeah, I don't know what I'll say and offend people and, things like that. So that's one aspect. So culture shock. Yeah. So people are, if you look at it from a Nigerian perspective, or many Africans, so the way Africans socialize is in this setting sort of too forward. So folks have to learn that. And for some, of course, they struggle with it, and they put them off, and they're like, right, I'm done trying to do this. Then, other factors can contribute. Things like inadequate or even total lack of social ties and interaction. When you have no family around, or you have no familiar faces, then it becomes daunting. You've moved to a totally new continent, new country, and then you're wondering, right, how do I, or even where do I meet folks? But someone who's got people already, it's easier for the person. Say, for example, you and I, assuming I've known you years, or you are my family, and you've been here, you've settled in, it's easy for you to say, right, let's go to the park, or let's go to a bar, or let's go to a pub. Then you sort of show me the ropes, or even show me a few of your friends or associates, and then take things from there. So, these are contributing factors. Then the big factor for immigrants as well, which sometimes we try as much as we can to not mention it, because it makes everyone uncomfortable, or even sounds are controversial. When you talk about negative social interactions, lately we've had a lot of negative rhetoric from the government and the newspapers. Every day it's almost like immigrants are this, immigrants are that. We've seen some politicians, just to please whatever group they're pandering to, they literally brand immigrants as criminals or poorly educated. So when folks who come in or are thinking of coming in, you see these things in the paper, you read it, or those who get very unlucky actually get harassed or abused, then they're like, whoa, these guys literally don't want me. And there's nothing as bad as that. Once you become very suspicious of the environment you live, then you see there's a problem. And of course, such things lead to mutual suspicion. Because, the newcomer, i.e. the immigrant, doesn't trust his neighbors or doesn't trust interactions with folks who are the locals. And of course, he or she will, as these things they be, you start releasing negative vibes, and the locals too will start picking up those negative vibes, and they'll be like, this guy, is he a friend or foe? And humans being humans, that will literally strain or even break every opportunity to get to know each other.
Well, that's a good point you mentioned, because there's something I mentioned all the time in psychology, and I like preconceived notions and bias without even knowing. If you hear in the news, this doctor is always, forget about the news. If someone comes and tells me, Dr. Obiora is a bad person, and I hear 10 people tell me Dr. Obiora is a bad person, Before I meet Dr. Obiora, I'll put up this card when I meet Dr. Obiora without even knowing.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's true.
Right, for me, because I've already put up a card, will now affect the way you treat me, because in your mind you're like, I'm just meeting this person for the first time. Why so negative towards me? I've never done anything to this person.
Yeah.
And it creates a toxic environment for good people.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think are the effects and consequences of loneliness, immigrants?
Right. So it affects, I'll say this is now a general problem, not just immigrants, but I'll say immigrants probably suffer more. And why do I say this? So, for example, someone who's moved from one country to the other, probably thinking, right, I'll come here, study or get a job, and turn my life around or make my life better from where it was when I was in, my country. And they come in, they become lonely for different reasons. So first is it knocks them back. Yeah. It knocks them back career-wise.
Yeah.
When you're not interacting with folks, you wouldn't even know what's going on. You wouldn't know how to get yourself to fit into the society. So career-wise, it can knock folks back. Then socially, same. I mentioned it earlier, mutual suspicion. When you're, say, living in an estate and you're busy being too cautious of the neighbors too are being too cautious of you. So you see, the person is already lagging behind and getting stuck in a vicious cycle. Then financially as well. When folks are lonely, when we say networking is seriously underrated, and a lonely person won't be able to network, because if you're networking, that means you're probably not lonely. That means you're forming good quality relationships with people. So you see, it's also affected not just career but financially. So probably the person gets stuck in the job, and if the job is not well paid, you see how folks will be trapped. Then when you think about health as well, when one is lonely, not networking, not forming good quality relationships, there's so many things they may not be aware of. And I say this from a position of privilege as a GP.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example. There's this lady who moved from Cyprus, has an autistic child, but whilst in Cyprus, the child was just in, I can't remember what she called it, a school for challenged kids. So basically they weren't being taught anything. And this child, 4 years, was there struggling. It got into year 5, turned 5, still struggling, couldn't even read the alphabet and all that. So when I saw her in surgery, I saw the mom, then I saw the child. And from there, out of curiosity, I was like, what's your son's name? And she told me, and I'm like, he looks like he's on the spectrum. And she was like, yeah. So one thing led to the other, and I was like, look, arrange another appointment. Let's have a proper consultation about your son. And when they came, it turned out that basically nothing was being done for this child in Cyprus. And of course, being a GP, knowing what the child needed, I swung into action, involved, the team who supports autistic kids, involved speech and language, so many things. And this is a year since I saw the boy. He's doing well now, as in he's doing very well. Yes, still autistic, but he's doing very well. So these are the challenges immigrants face. And the mom is a good mom, but simply because she didn't know, she even came to the UK, she felt, well, this is what they do in Cyprus. So I guess, if you're autistic and you're in the UK, you wouldn't really, So you see how these things affect folks. It's easy for lonely folks to get stuck in the vicious cycle of low self-esteem, low mood, and that would then lead on to depression, and from there increased stress hormones, poor sleep, and everything that comes with such problems. And if this carries on for years, that will literally mean the person's quality of life and even longevity will be affected.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. There's something you mentioned about the loneliness. Yeah, once you are lonely, the information you are supposed to even receive from other by just interacting with other people, maybe there's this well, let's just say there's a promo per se,
Mm-hmm.
or even information that will help your career progression. Because you are
Yep.
lonely, you will not get that information. Nobody's going to
Yep.
tell you that. Nobody's
Yep.
going to leave the comfort of their own home or confines of their home to come and tell you that. No, sometimes you just have to be in a particular environment, social environment, so that you get out
Yeah.
of people and then you pick up those information. So you're right.
True.
You may end up being stuck instead of progressing in your career. You start wondering, why are you not getting the promotion? Why are you not progressing? But it's because maybe you're a bit withdrawn. Like you said, some people when they come in with a lot of joy and happiness, and then they get this cultural shock and they withdraw, they recoil. And some getting out of that shell again becomes a problem for some of them.
Yeah. True. True.
Yeah, becomes a problem
Well,
for some.
yeah, yeah. Those to be honest, you could say it's self-induced loneliness, and I'll
Really?
explain. Yeah, yeah, I'll explain. Yeah, so I mean, it may sound in quotes shocking, but remember we talked about loneliness. It's all about having good quality relationships, and
Yeah,
it's not necessarily about the quantity. It's more about the quality. So somebody who's left, say, Nigeria, and like we say, I want Japan, make I go hustle. Yeah, they
yeah,
want to hustle. They want to make money. So they come in. They may even have a good job, which is brilliant, or maybe doing a menial job. The point is, they may have a job, but hyper focused on, right, I have to make the money. So
yeah.
you see such folks working, say 40, 60 hours a week. All they know is they sleep, they wake up, they eat, they go to work, and at work they are hyper focused. So you see such folks, even at work, they are not even connecting with their colleagues at work. So you see where the problem is. And with time, the person becomes not just lonely, but even isolated, because they just go home and they are home. Yes, of course, everyone enjoys his or her alone time, but then there's a thin line between having too much alone time and being socially isolated and also being lonely. So that's what I'll say is sort of self-induced loneliness. Because next then time flies by and one day they wake up and realize, wait, hang on, I literally know nobody. And the few guys I knew, I've never been in touch with them. And they too, humans being humans, you have to oil your relationships, maintain your relationships. So those who they left behind, say in Nigeria, they may be like, oh, well, this guy left the country. He now feels too big to keep in touch with us. Or maybe he doesn't want our company anymore. He's moved on. And when I'll say true friends start moving on, of course, the person is alone, and not just alone, loneliness creeps in. And that's a problem on its own.
Actually, the thing is it true? Because most immigrants come with it. I understand that everybody wants a better life for him and his family, or her family here, her and her family. But you realize, because of the quest for better life, would they all walk and walk and walk?
Yeah.
And sometimes, like you say, they don't really connect with people they work with. They are just competing with them. For work or promotion, they're just competing. They don't really connect with people. And at the end of the day, they realize, like I used to tell people back then, like living in the UK will make you realize money is not everything. I'm sorry, but you need quality, because you may make the money and realize you need quality relationship, people you can actually have good time with. That's actually, to actually keep you sane. Because if you're just working and making the money, at some point you'll be like, oh, man, who am I actually making this money for? Yes, your family is there, but are you really enjoying your life?
Yeah. To be honest, you say that living in the UK, I'll say living anywhere in the world, has shown making money is not the only thing we need to have satisfied lives. Yes, having money is good. Nobody can deny that, because when you've got money, you've got resources, you can actually I'll say enjoy yourself a bit more. But I mean, there's this study which was done by Harvard, the university. It's a study where they followed up, I think, 744 men, and they started almost 70 plus years ago. It's been a long time, but they were lucky to follow these men from I think childhood, teenage, adolescence, adulthood, and even old age. So at the onset, when many of those men were teenagers, they initially believed, right, being rich or being that is what I need, or it's more or less the biggest thing I need to have happy lives, or succeed in life. But as time went by, they realized it was actually having good quality relationships. And like I said earlier, yes, having money is good, but you need to have good quality, and it's not about quantity. That's why, that's why in the news or social media, you hear that maybe some famous guy, maybe an actor or a musician committed suicide. Then you check the comment section, say on any social, and they're like, what? That if I had his money, or if I had the connection he has, or if I had this or that, or I've even seen someone say, whoa, this guy flies around in private jet, he's met this person, blah, blah, blah. How come? Why is he depressed? Then I look at those things and I shake my head and I'm like, right, they don't even, that's proof that being rich, famous, is totally different from being happy, and it may not always make you happy. And at the end of the day, you need quality. And folks are like, oh, but this guy is always surrounded by folks. Then
it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. So I tell them, look, you may be with your squad, that 10-man, 20-man squad, or even combination, but in your mind, you may even actually be scared, because such people, they may be like, right, am I even sure these guys are for me, or are they just here to leech or fleece me? So you realize the person is actually paranoid. And of course, I have the privilege of having, I'll say, a few of such, I'll say, not even few, many rich folks who, and a few who are actually famous. So when they come in and say these things, you now start questioning yourself, and you're like, this is, being rich, being famous is actually a gift and a curse for them. Because
it is. I learned maybe in secondary school that popularity is a problem. I'm sorry, but because most of the time, I'm just trying to link it to being rich, because once you're rich, it was kind of. You notice that when you're popular, some people come around you, not necessarily because they like you, they just like that you're popular.
Yeah, true.
So you start asking yourself, are these people really around me because they like your personality, they want to be your friends, or is it that once they get what they want and they move on? And if you look at the lives of a lot of celebrities, most of them, they are in the same situation. People try to take advantage of them, even family members try to even so at the point they start asking themselves, okay, that means, do I really have anyone? So they feel like they are alone. But because they are celebrity, we feel like they are immune. They are immune to these things. But they all feel the same thing. They all have the same But
some may actually be worse off than us. Reason is the so-called ordinary folk have genuine people who are with them, and multiple studies and environments have shown people who have those who genuinely care for them, when they are unwell, they do better. They do better in the sense that pain they are feeling, physical, emotional, they don't feel as bad as those who are literally lonely with their illness. Because they still enjoy that warmth, that love, that connection, that I fell down, broke my ankle, but my mom literally boarded a plane and came, my dad came, my wife is here, that person is there. So they actually, to be honest, for some, it actually hits them. I'll say, feel good that, that, something as serious as this is happening to me. It will get better, but my family are all around me. They're taking good care of me. So in fact, it actually even increases bonding for them and make them appreciate life more, because they're like, well, that's, my people turned up. The way we say, my people turned up for me. And everyone is happy. And when they recover, they are so grateful that, look, I have folks who actually do care for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree with what you said, because I had some experiences when I was younger, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized getting well is linked to mental health. So
Yeah, yeah,
I had this experience that left me in a hospital for 8 months, and I
mm-hmm.
realized people that were getting better are people that were my, when I say my neighbors in the hospital. I realized
Yeah,
the ones that got better were in a better mental space compared to
yeah,
the
yeah,
ones that
mm-hmm.
didn't get better and died. And then I
Yeah,
started thinking, the moment this thing that and I realized, oh, there's actually a big link to how you feel mentally to how you actually recover. So I think you're right there. So somebody isolating themselves, no friends, being, I think it's going to affect them whether they're, when they fall ill, whether they have love around them. I think it's really, really going to affect them. But because of time, finally, I want you to think about this question. So, assuming you are tasked now with
mm-hmm.
solving loneliness in the UK, how
Mm-hmm.
would you go about it?
Well, that's that will be a big job. It'll be a massive job. And why I say it'll be a massive job is you're now thinking of individual factors, family factor, society factor, and of course you talk of regional and national. Yeah, but I think the NHS and the NHS, many social organizations, schools as well, are beginning to work on that. So I wouldn't say my ideas are actually novel. Yeah, why I say this is we're now beginning to see lots of advertisement on TV from the NHS, from charities, different organizations. And I'm happy it's happening. People are beginning to recognize loneliness as a serious problem in the
Yeah.
Western world and in the world in general. So people are beginning to think about this, beginning to talk about it. Yeah. So I think good sensitivity, when you sensitize the public that look, this is what loneliness is, in case you're actually lonely and may not even know it, or in case you're lonely and you know you're lonely and you're seeking help. Yeah, so that's one aspect. Good public health campaign, and not just good public health campaign, creating opportunities, environment for people to mix up and get to know each other. Like we've got parks, churches help, social events, you know, avenues for people to have good quality, meaningful relationships. Then, of course, we have loads of charity organizations that try to engage people. For example, for older folks, but for senior citizens who are lonely, we have things like a befriend and service. We have Age UK that have volunteers. They phone folks who are lonely and try to engage them and try to get them to come out, get them to have meaningful relationships. I think that's one aspect that will be really, really helpful.
Yeah. But is there anything else that you think can be done in for immigrants? And I know we've talked about UK at large.
Yeah.
For immigrants, do you think there's anything that can be done so that once they come in, they don't feel lonely? I know it's hard.
Sure.
I know it's hard.
Yeah.
But anything that can be done that once they come in, they don't feel that loneliness at all.
Yeah, sure. So for immigrants, I think a good support system, and that support system should start from, so say students, and I know many universities. I was in the University of Leeds, and when I came here for my master's, they had a wonderful program, welcome and induction program, whereby before you even come in, you get lots of information on simple things like how to get a mobile number, shopping, blah, 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 then meet and greet services, where you go, you meet people who are like you. We're humans, and humans are by default programmed to engage with each other, and it's easier for every human to start socializing with folks who look like him or her, especially when you get to unfamiliar places. So I'll say for students, non-students alike, the journey will start from the individual and involve those who are already on ground to set up avenues, to set up a network, to set up a system to engage folks who are coming in. So they'll give them more or less an informal induction to the UK. So when they come in, they'll know how to, be able to rent a property, how to get a phone line, how to do this, how to do that, how to set up a bank account. When you do all those things with ease, it lessens stress. You feel appreciated, you feel supported by those who are around. And of course, from there, who knows, you may end up being friends. And of course, those who are looking for relationships, if you're, if you get to meet people, boys, girls, then
that's the only way you can actually have a relationship. If you're isolated, there's no way you can have one.
There's no way. Then of course, when you meet people in neutral ground, say parks, churches, bars, restaurants, then from there, one step at a time, and you get closer to folks and start deepening the relationship. So there are lots of avenues to do that, but I'll say it's left to us, the immigrants, to keep supporting those who are coming in, and of course for those who are coming in to keep themselves open and seek all those support systems available in the country.
Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Obiora, for coming on the show. This is all the time I have for this week, but it's been a lovely chat with you.
Same here. Thank you. I think we've had a wonderful and meaningful conversation.
I hope you enjoyed it, so that we can actually do more and more in the future.
Well, it's up to you. You are the organizer. If you call me next time and I'm available, I'll be happy to come back.
All right, that's good to hear. Thank you so much, Dr. Obi. And talk to you.
All right, then cheers and all the best.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.